The Wild Robot. When I saw the trailer of the movie, I knew this movie would be great. Then I went to see the movie. It was a great movie. I definitely recommend watching. I mean, who am I to recommend anything, but still, I recommend watching the movie. The story was compelling, interesting, and man, the animation was fantastic. I could go on and talk about how this modern classic is wonderful art piece. But that's not what I'm here for. Because the dog, I don't know, geese or whatever, goose or whatever, relationship between Goose and the mother reminded me of something. And then I realized what I was listening to was the OST of Leafie, A Hand into a Wild, South Korean animated film that released in 2011. Leafie, A Hand into a Wild, and The Wild Robot. Yeah, they had some similarities. No, not just one. Man. Okay, one thing to clarify, I don't think that Wild Robot is some kind of a duplicate of the Leafie, A Hand into a Wild. They are totally different movie with some similarities that I thought it was interesting. That's what made me to make this video. So I'll move on from this topic. By the way, if you didn't watch The Wild Robot, which I doubt you didn't watch, go and watch now. And if you didn't watch Leafie, A Hand into a Wild, which I doubt you did watch, double go and watch it now. I am pretty sure it's on Netflix or something, I don't know. And watch it in Korean version, not Western release. Or you can just watch the Steve Reviews review, which I really appreciate what he did there. His review was great. Overall, the story itself has big similarities, such as the main character trying to find where she belongs to, the nature versus artificial, story taking in a wild nature, the main character trying to fit in with the wild, the relationship between the mother and the adopted son, and the son finding his place and being a hero of his kind. I just laid out only the similarities here that I thought it was fun to compare. But there is really big difference between these two. As I said, the difference is what I really want to talk about. Also, the ending is wildly different too. I will talk about that later. Difference of the ending is a crucial point that I'm trying to say here. The first biggest difference that I found out between, let's say, American animation and Korean animation is the fascination, something special. The point of fascination here is that onto a story, American animation, okay, not only just the animation, just the whole film industry itself, always add one more special aspect to make the story even more interesting. It's all the cool stuffs we see in Hollywood, such as superheroes, science fictions, Disney magics, and the list goes on and on. It might look like all these fascinations are made so that they can sell these products even more. I mean, maybe it makes sense because they're Americans, they're Hollywood. But I think that these are also the strength of their storytelling. It mixes things that could be somewhat boring into something interesting. For instance, in the case of Forrest Gump, even the symptom of autism become the most important aspect of the story, and they used it fantastically. Which in contrast to the South Korean movie 국제시장, Ode to My Father, which is called Korean Forrest Gump, and I also do think they're kind of similar. Suspicious, but is just a Korean man going through Korean history, which Korean history itself is already fascinating story and a material. But it's still an average man with no adjectives. And when it comes to the Wild Robot and Leafie, A Hand into a Wild, it also goes really similar. Korean story has more realistic nature, a hen who goes through the story into a wild, and that already is some special idea, yes, but then the Americans go robots, technology, awesome actions. Yes, simply fantastic. I didn't even talk about the whole amazing visuals and animations of the Wild Robot. It's just spectacular itself. All this 2.5D animation, I am truly into this. Since the Spider-Verse Puss in the Boots, which I admire, and then Wild Robots. Man, I can go on and on when it comes to this astonishing, stunning, phenomenal animation and visuals. Respect to the animators and art directors. We just talked about how Americans have this cool robots and cool stuffs, yeah, but Korea doesn't. I am very careful when I'm talking about this part, but the reason why Korean animation doesn't have this fascination or something could be the lack of the budget. I could say that it could be the lack of the creativity. It might be, but the reason why I'm not saying that this is the lack of the creativity is because Korean animation had one of the most unluckiest history and failures. And the fact that Leafie, A Hand into a Wild was one of the only Korean animation that actually was successful hit since, I don't know, 1967, which was the very first Korean animation. That already explains a lot why investors never give Korean animation any chance. To be honest, this film itself was also barely shining its whole potential, in my opinion. Simply blaming at the budget is, a very lazy way to make an excuse of lack of creativity, yes, but in this case, I do think it's kind of valid. However, I also think that Korean style of storytelling makes it even more or less fascinating, yet captivating, which is my final point of this video. What I mean by less fascinating yet captivating, in my personal opinion, like I just make this stuff up, is that fascination is more magical and captivating is more touching. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Korean storytellers like to make stuffs more realistic, making a story to more reflect the truth of reality, even the dark parts of the realities. Sometimes it works great, but sometimes it kinda just makes movie too edgy and just becomes a rant on harsh reality, which I truly do not like. But in this case of Leafie, A Hand into a Wild, they nailed this style of story. The story shows the fascination of nature, yet still reflects the wild and dangerous nature of reality. And it goes really dark, even tragic. It's not just an idea of circle of life. They don't just talk about it. It shows directly with no hesitation. The idea of wild here goes way deeper than just nature wild. But that's what makes this style of storytelling captivating. It touches our heart because we know that's how wild reality is. The ending of these two movies perfectly show this. I talked about how these two movies were similar in story, yet the ending is completely different. The ending of The Wild Robots shows how Rose found her place and hugs her son, acknowledging their love. Meanwhile, the ending of Leafie was sacrificing herself, knowing fully that she will never meet her son ever again. Rose couldn't promise her reunion with her son, yet they met again to form a happy ending. In contrast, Leafie firmly promised to her son that she will wait for him, yet sacrificed herself for other mother's love, never fulfilling her own promise of love. That's like so sad. That's like, that's so sad, but captivating. This emotion makes me want to watch this art of an animated film again and again. As a person dreaming to be a storyteller, it was so interesting to look both of this great animated film and trying to find some fun similarities and even more interesting differences. To conclude, I don't think what I say is like a firm truth or anything. I don't think my opinion is even close to being correct. It's just my thoughts and imaginations flowing around, and I simply wanted to share these imaginations. And thank you for watching.